Hello everyone again. Welcome back to my videos on the IELTS general theme, and today I'm going to continue with the IELTS general writing task 1, which is all about writing a letter. In this part of the test, the letter you will be asked to write falls into one of 3 categories. It can either be formal or semi-formal or informal. Now, it's very important that you identify which category the test is asking you to write. And they don't always make that 100% clear. So you have to study the task that you've been given, and then you have to decide. The problem being is that each of the different types requires a different approach, and you need to know, you need to use the right approach by the salutations you use to start the letter, the way you put the content down, it gives the general ambience of what you're saying, and the way you close your letter also is important for the type of letter that you're writing. By the end of this video, you will be able to easily identify the type of the letter that's required, and you will also, with the practice we're going to do today, be able to formulate a semi-formal letter, and we're going to do that exercise within this. And I will also be giving you various tips along the road as we do this. So if this is of interest to you, then let's get to it. Let's talk about how we identify the various letters that we might be required to write in the IELTS General Writing Task 1 task. So it could be a formal letter, a semi-formal letter, or an informal letter. I think we're all clear on that. Now then, the formal letter, these are letters to companies or organizations, and for the attention of people that we have never actually met. It's quite possible if you're responding to an advertisement or something, you may have a name, and you will be able to address the person by name, but keeping the letter formal. For instance, it might be for a job interview or for an application for something or other, and you have been given the name, but if not, then you just write to Dear Sir or Madam, which is the way to address a formal letter. Let's look at some examples of what these formal letters might be. Okay, a job application, that's the one we just discussed. When you see a job application, quite often they give you the name of the person that you should apply to, or they may just give you the department. So you can actually choose Dear Sir or Madam, but if they've given you the name in the advertisement, then you should actually use the name Dear Mr. blah blah blah, or Dear Mrs. da da da, or Dear Miss da da da. So that's a good way of starting the formal letter if you know who you're supposed to address it to. So a job application is a good aspect there. A complaint letter, if you've experienced an issue with a product or service, you might need to write a formal complaint letter to the relevant company or organization. This letter would outline the problem, the details, and request a resolution, etc. And once again, that would be addressed to Dear Sir or Madam. And then there's many examples, but the last one I've put here is a request for information. A lot of people do have to write and ask for further information about different things. So once again, that's a type of formal letter, and you should once again start it with Dear Sir or Madam. Let's now talk about semi-formal, and I think this is probably practically the most difficult letter to write, actually, because you're trying to walk the middle of the road, so to speak, in that you don't want to be too formal and maybe upset people, etc., by your attitude, but you don't want to be on a friendly basis, and you want to give them some respect for their position, etc. So it's a middle of a road letter, and that's the way it is. Letters to people that you know or have some functionality with, well, it might be a school teacher or a manager or something of that ilk. And we'll go into some examples in a moment. Semi-formal, let's look at some examples. Okay, it could be a thank you letter. Writing a semi-formal thank you letter is appropriate for expressing gratitude in a personal or professional context. This could be to thank someone for a gift, assistance, or even for a job interview that you've recently attended. Sometimes a very good idea to write a follow-up letter thanking them. Letter of recommendation. Yes, when writing a letter of recommendation for someone, maybe a semi-formal tone is the best way to present the letter. This letter highlights the person's qualities and achievements and is commonly used for academic or employment purposes. Another type would be an apology letter, writing an apology for something that you've done, for a mistake or a misunderstanding. A semi-formal apology letter can be used. This letter acknowledges the error, expresses regret, and outlines steps that you intend to make amends. So there's some typical examples, and just give you an idea of when you're looking at the task you've been given, which is it formal, semi-formal, or let's look next at informal. Informal letters. I know a lot of people listening to this or watching this video will think, well, do we still write informal letters? Because in this day and age, with all the social communication aspects on our telephones, etc., do informal letters still get written? Well, the answer to that is yes, and it's in particular aspects, it's very good to write an informal letter to people, and many people appreciate it, the fact that you've sitting down, picked up pen to paper and written an informal letter. They appreciate it. And these are letters to people who you know personally and would like to communicate in an informal manner. So when there are examples that you might actually like to communicate like this, well, it could be a personal letter to a friend. Writing a letter to a friend to catch up, share news, or simply stay in touch is an informal type of letter. You can use a relaxed tone and conversational language. Yeah, you can really veer away from the standards, and when you're talking with friends, you've probably got a good mode of communication with each other. You're probably using your letter anyway. But it could be a congratulatory letter to a close colleague for achieving something, on a personal achievement like a new baby. There's a good example. People send cards, congratulations and things when new babies arrive sometimes. Or maybe one of your friends gets promoted. Congratulations with an informal letter is a very nice way of doing it. You can convey your excitement and happiness in these letters in a more casual manner. Or it might be a thank you note to a family member. We often get gifts, etc., from family members, and it means a lot to us. And I think to respond to people that are giving us very special gifts with a note, a short informal letter or a note is a very nice way of responding to that. People appreciate the fact, once again, as I say, you sat down and put pen to paper. So these are the type of writing task, informal tasks, that you might come across in this IELTS test also. So I think the informal ones are easy to spot. Once again, going back to the semi-formal, I think that's probably the most difficult one to spot, actually, because is it semi-formal or is it formal? But if going back to that in a moment, and just to clarify, in the semi-formal, if you know who you're writing to, etc., then it can be more semi-formal maybe easier identified. Okay, so now I'd like to explain to you how you can easily identify in the test itself when they're looking for a semi-formal letter, because obviously to write a semi-formal letter you need to know the person that you're going to be writing to. So let's take a look at these three examples I have here. The first question is, you need to take some time off from work to go on holiday. Write a letter to your direct manager, and then it will give you the bullet points. But the fact that it's asking you to write a letter to your direct manager, well, you should know your direct manager's name, and you can open the letter with Dear Mr. Green, or Dear Mrs. Brown, or whatever. Make a name up. Think of a name. It doesn't matter what it is. Just think of a name. Dear Mr. or Mrs. whatever you want to use, and then you've got your start to your letter, and you can move into your paragraph one. The next one is, you are experiencing financial problems and want to ask your landlord if you can pay your rent late. Write a letter to your landlord. Once again, obviously semi-formal, because you're writing to your landlord, so you should know their name. And not only that, but being your landlord and someone that you're asking to help you with a problem you have, etc. You don't want you can't make it a formal letter. You want his assistance, and you want to try and keep them friendly. So it's a nice semi-formal letter to let them know that you can't afford to pay and ask them for some time, etc., to be able to afford your rent in due course. Once again, if you don't know, think of a name when you start your letter. The third one, I've added the bullet points in here. You were absent from an important event held by your company you work for. Write a letter to your manager once again, so you should know who your manager is, obviously, and you know their name. Apologize for your absence and explain the reasoning. Explain why you had to be at the other event, and explain what you will do to catch up. Yes, you're really apologizing to the manager for missing the event, etc., and the reason why, and how you're going to make up for it. Okay, so it's obviously another semi-formal letter that you're addressing here, and you're going to make up your manager's name when you start answering it. Okay, that's the points I want to make here to look for when you're looking for a semi-formal. So now we will go on and we will actually do a semi-formal letter, just to get you into the thought process. Just before I go on to do an example letter for you, what I do want to cover is something that's very important to a lot of students or people that are getting ready to take this test, is how to conclude their semi-formal letters, how to finish them before you write your name underneath them. Well, here is some suggestions that I found works very, very well. The first one is sincerely. Now, not yours sincerely, as you might find in a formal letter, but just sincerely. And this is a simple and straightforward way to conclude your letter. It's appropriate when you want to maintain a formal tone, but still remain courteous. The next one I'd suggest is kind regards or best regards. This closing is warm and polite, and it makes people feel, that's okay, making it appropriate for semi-formal contexts. With appreciation, this is another good closing way to do it. Use this closing when you want to express your gratitude for the recipient's help or consideration. Thank you for your time. If you've asked the recipient for something or you're acknowledging their time and effort, this closing works very, very well. And looking forward to your response. Now, this is very good when you want them to come back to you and tell you something, when you're expecting a reply or a follow-up action. This shows people that you're looking forward to getting their reply as soon as possible. So these are very, very good ways of ending your semi-formal letters. Okay, let's move on to trying to answer a semi-formal letter to Band 7 or better. So for this exercise, I've picked a card at random from the pile of semi-formal letters, and this one I've come up with is this. You have been living in a rental apartment for the past year. Recently, a new neighbour moved in who has loud parties several times a week. Write a letter to your landlord, and in your letter, explain the situation, describe why it bothers you, and suggest a solution. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to get on and do that, and I'll show you next what my notes were, etc. So here's my points I want to answer this. So the opening, I want to use Dear Mr. Brown. Mr. Brown being my landlord. Once again, remember what I say, make a name up just to make your answer complete. And then the first bullet point was explain the situation. So really I'm making a complaint. I'm going to open the letter describing the problem that I have. And then I'm going to go on to the second paragraph. I'm going to tell them why it actually bothers me. And the notes I've got here is the noise, I'm not sleeping well, concentration's a problem, and I'm worried about my general health overall because of the problems that these people are causing. And then I want to suggest a solution, the landlord involvement, and maybe changing the rules slightly for renters so we have designated times for parties and things to come to an end, particularly during the weekend, also at weekends also. So this is the sort of suggestions we can make, and then we're going to sign off with something informal or semi-formal, and let's see what I've written. So let's go through my letter here. Dear Mr. Brown. Mr. Brown, of course, I've made the name up, as I suggest you do as well. I'm writing about a concern regarding the new neighbour who recently moved in next door. They frequently host loud parties late into the night, disrupting my peace and sleep. While I understand the desire to socialise, the noise has become a regular disturbance. So there you are. That's my opening paragraph, where I've also outlined the problem that I'm facing. And then the next bullet point was, why does this bother me? Well, that's what we're going to address with the second paragraph. The situation bothers me for a few reasons. Firstly, the lack of sleep is affecting my productivity at work. Secondly, it's challenging to concentrate on tasks at home with the constant noise. Moreover, it's impacting my overall well-being and causing increased stress. So there I've outlined the problems I've got because of it. It's the noise, and it's affecting my sleep, and I can't think clearly, and I'm worried about my overall health. So what am I going to suggest to do to remedy the problem? Paragraph 3. To address this, could you kindly discuss the matter with the new neighbour, reminding them of the rental agreement's requirements for a peaceful living environment? Additionally, considering designated quiet hours, especially on weekdays, could be helpful for all residents. And then to wind up, I put, I appreciate your attention to this matter and your commitment to the residents' comfort. Your intervention would greatly improve the situation. Thank you for understanding. That's it. Closed. Your name. Finished. No problem at all. And that I think would get quite a high band score in your IELTS General Writing Task 1. Well, there we are. We've done the semi-formal letter, and yesterday we done the formal letter, and tomorrow I will do an informal letter. And once we've done these three, that's the IELTS General Task 1 Writing Task 1 covered. And we will then move on to Task 2, which is probably a little bit more in depth and takes a little bit more planning because it's an essay, and for sure it's worth more consideration because it's worth 66% of the total marks for the writing part of the test. So that's the way we're planning to do it. All you've got to do is really concentrate on getting your punctuation, your grammar, and your vocabulary. And for, as I've said before, do not use words that you're not 100% sure of the context and in which to use them. Because if you use words out of context just to sound impressive, you could be really shooting yourself in the foot and making a problem. So don't do it. Anyway, that's the video for today. Thank you for watching. If you like it, please think about following me and subscribing and ringing the bell, etc., because there is a lot of interesting videos coming up. Thanks for watching again, and see you in my next video.